Hello and good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, friends. My very first request to you all is please keep yourselves on mute so that whenever the presenter is presenting, there's no background sounds and there are no disturbances. So just requesting you to do that, first of all. Thank you. And welcome to When the Stars Align, a group formed with the sole purpose of promoting constellation work. Each week, you will meet a different constellation facilitator who has their own unique perspective on this work. So far, we've had a talk on constellation and its connection to the 7 sutras. We've had the quantum jump and constellations, and we've also had a perspective on the importance of our relationship to our fathers, a constellation perspective on the same, which was presented by me. And tomorrow I have the workshop for the same. Today we have Alicia Sanabria, and I'm going to give you a little introduction of her. Alicia, have you joined in? Then you can just raise your hand so I can make you co-host. Okay, so as she's joining in, I'm just going to give you an introduction of who she is. Okay, so Alicia M. Sanabria, she's a transformational catalyst, family and systemic constellation facilitator, shamanic ancestral healer, Akashic records soul guide, spiritual and life coach, and multi-dimensional therapist. Alicia was born in Havana, Cuba. She lived in Madrid, Spain with her family as a little girl before migrating to the United States. She grew up in New York City and now lives in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil since 1999. She considers herself a global citizen. Alicia founded Unlimited Well-Being with focus on the affirmation of well-being and abundance in life. This abundance is at all levels: health, unconditional love, financial prosperity, service to oneself and others, progressive soul evolution, positive thoughts and actions, joy and fun. She has over 30 years of applied professional and academic work as a transformational catalyst globally. So I hope you are all ready for her. Alicia, I'm just going to make you co-host and replace Spotlight. And just give me a moment, Alicia, seeing how to make you co-host after having put you in the spotlight. I think I had to do it before that. Hang on. I'm going to just remove Spotlight, make you co-host, and then bring you back into the spotlight. Yes. And did you get the message that you are co-host? Yeah. And spotlight for everyone. There we go. Okay, Alicia. So I've already finished my introduction of you, and now I'm handing over to you.
Good day to all. Good morning, good evening, good night, good dawn, depending on where you are in the world or when you will listen to this, for those that are not able to be here with us today. Once again, a pleasure. First and foremost, thank you, Ritu. It was such a pleasure to meet you. I don't even remember how many years ago it was. 5 or 6 years ago in Germany at the Hellinger Days. And being a part of this community, of bringing this together, bringing family systemic constellators together, and the way we work with this incredible modality that is really part of our cultures, but got systematized by a very special person who has contributed so much to the planet in bringing them together in a Western way, let's say. I'm going to start by introducing myself, but before doing that, if you could do a little raise of hands, is everyone here a family constellator, an aficionado? Maybe you are a therapist of another kind, but have been around family constellation. I'm still going to cover some of the basics, but I kind of want to engage where everyone is. Hands up are you are therapists, you are family constellation individuals, family and systemic. Okay, we have a few folks that are appear not to be. So let me start sharing screen with you. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and what brought me into this amazing world of family constellations. Let's just go in here. Because it covers my view and I can't have it first. When we go back to the live world, we forget some of these online things.
We
Okay,
could
here we
see the screen you were sharing, Alicia. It was visible.
You could see it. I wanted
Yeah.
to make it big. It's
Yeah.
small. Do you see it in big?
Yeah, no. So you can just go to, from
Okay, got it.
beginning, from current slide, whatever. Start
Okay,
slide from current slide. Yeah, perfect.
a little bit about myself first. So my official academic training are in two areas. The first being psychology. By trade, by profession, I'm actually an industrial organizational psychology, so applying psychology in the workplace. I have a profound soul mission to make life happier, more fluid, and abundant. And having grown up in the United States, you know, people live to work versus what we see in so many other societies, Europe, here I see in Brazil, where I live now. You work
Alicia,
to
sorry,
live.
somebody is requesting you to increase the volume of your system. Can you do that?
Okay, it's pretty loud over here for me. Let me know if that got better.
I think so. Yeah.
Is that
I
better
think
for
it's
you all?
better.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can also speak louder. Sometimes it's like I'm
Yeah.
screaming.
Yeah.
Just people, please let me know if anything's not coming through, if there's a bit of an interruption. And then
No,
I
we
will
can hear you
repeat
all the
myself.
way in India now, Alicia.
And then my industrial organizational psychology trainer was one of the best public school systems in the United States and in the city of New York, Bernard Baruch. I also did graduate work in industrial organizational psychology. I don't identify so much as an industrial organizational psychologist, but I do have a gamut of training, selection, performance, and things that weren't talked about 30 years ago, a little more, but we won't age ourselves too much. Diversity in the workplace, life in the workplace. And I also things like children, when you're managing children and adults, all of that come from a very strong background, and especially the training and forward, upward movement for employees. I'm also have been and still continue to function as a cultural and development specialist with focus in Africa in human development. My studies there were done at Cornell University. In terms of family constellation and systemic constellation and hydrosystemic constellation, where I am a facilitator, but also a teacher, various trainings. First of all, in Brazil, where we have a gamut of functions within systemic constellation, which is usually why I use the word systemic. We use it in medicine, we use it in the legal system. It is part of the national health system, one of the therapies that's used within the national health system. And then we use it in family, use it in organizations, in businesses, so many applications. And in all of those applications, it can also be done with hydrosystemic constellation, which is my primary focus today when I work online. When I work online, it's global. It's global. I speak English, I Spanish, I speak Portuguese. I don't only think of my local community, which I love and contribute to in many ways, as I have been contributed to by the community, but also understanding, wow, I can bring this to the world. I can work with this in other locations as well. My trainings have been in Brazil, Spain, Germany, and the United States. And those trainings are that I'm talking about are all in person. Online, that's numerous. Usui Reiki Master, I've been a Reiki Master since 1997. Something that so many years later was so fundamental in the constellation world because of the tapping
Alicia,
into the silence. Yes,
Alicia, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no
I think
problem.
there is some people are saying that your sound is loud enough, but for some reason not very clear enough. Maybe you can speak closer to the mic. Is that possible?
Okay. I actually have a headset. There might just be some internet issues, but just
Okay.
don't feel no problem. Interrupt me because we want to have the information get through and definitely the recording for those that are going to be listening later. It'll be much harder for them. You can
Yeah.
see me, so you can always relive. And Reiki is so important when we're really tapping into that heart center, the void, the silence that's so important in systemic constellations. I'm a Redonics Redonics board operator, which is quantum healing, holistic life coach, and spiritual mentor. To work with shamanic ancestral healing from the Institute Shamanism and Evolving Consciousness. One of my big focuses today is more and more retreats. I've done a lot of local retreats, and for 2024, really launching on retreats with all of these holistic modalities to various international locations. And like you, Ritu, because I see that you have the logo trading, I am also a Munaiki shamanic initiator. So the Peruvian line of shamanism, the American line of shamanism, the Americas, both North and South. Shamanism is a very big part of my life. And please keep telling me if you're all hearing me. I want to talk a little bit about family and systemic constellation. It is a therapeutic modality. It was systematized by Bert Hellinger. There are those that came before him. He went through a series, like you see all of our speakers so far are such diverse individuals with diverse backgrounds and with a lot of study, but also applying it. It is based on systemic thinking, group and organizational models, which observe and analyze the hidden dynamics of psychological and relational conflicts, which can be in family systems or other systems. What are these other systems? We have religious groups that we're a part of, spiritual groups, work groups, and another group, again, that is really used a lot in Brazil here is the legal system. And it's done through a systemic and transgenerational lens. As we often say in systemic, those that came before, they're holding behind us, propelling us forward, but also with those yet to come, our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. It is a backward and forward movement. It's not linear as we tend to think, but really spirals. So time and space do not exist in this linear format that we tend to think about in this dimension. Do want to cover the very basics of family constellation, which are the same in the hydrosystemic constellation. First, a very important figure, Rupert Sheldrake. What does he bring to this dialogue? Via Bert Hellinger, their meetings, morphic field. What is the morphic field? Everything that exists on Earth. This includes all sorts of groupings, the animal kingdom, which humans are also a part of, humans, flora, crystalline, rocks, crystals, the DNA of individuals, systems, and the collective. Morphic resonance. It's the process that is responsible for the transition and connection of information through time and space. And I do this because it's a spiraling process. I can access anything at any time. Everything is happening at the same time. And that, though Bert Hellinger doesn't speak about it this way, it is what we do see happening within the morphic field. The next theme that comes in with family constellation, phenomenology. Let's make that really simple. What is it? Everything is energy. The sensitive world is not completely obvious to our consciousness. Conscious is spelled wrong, so our conscious. Intuition, to observe or see without perceived notion and judgment. To know that that what is perceived with the sense, to sense what we perceive through the senses, what appears to be, and not necessarily what it is. Where do we see this so much in family constellations and systemic constellations? That repeating of patterns. So that single mother, and then her mother was also a single mother or an abandoned mother. Her daughter is in the same situation, single mother. We see this with financial challenges. Sometimes we've aligned to the simplicity, to the humbleness of our ancestors. And that's all phenomenological. It's not an understanding, it's a happening that's happening through the energetic field of our family. And the morphogenetic field, that's the quantic field of our family. It's the relationship, information related to all members of our family lineages, on the mother side and the father side. Those are members that we know and don't know. You know, in older societies, it's easier to have your genetic tree, but it's not so easy in the new world where I was born and where I continue to live, though in another location. So all the fields of all the principles of family constellation of Bert Hellinger's are applied in the hydrosystemic system as well. Primarily, we're looking at the orders of love, the systemic laws, universal laws. Bert Hellinger tapped into and codified something that ancient cultures have. We heard Dr. Newton's talk about a month ago, I think it is now, how this is so inherent in the sutras of India. It's so inherent in the shamanic society of the America. It's inherent in the ancient wisdom traditions throughout the continent of Africa. The importance, one, belonging and inclusion. The system should not have any missing members. What does that mean, missing members? Excluded. And we often don't know who's excluded in our system. Yes.
Alicia, there's still some complaint about the sound. You think you can talk without the headphone? Would that be better?
A little bit too much background noise, but we can try it.
Please, I'm so sorry to keep interrupting you. Some people are finding you clear enough. Some are finding you're not clear enough. So
Yeah, sometimes it has to do with the person. Are you hearing me now?
oh yes, it's better.
Cell phones can different give some background. We're gonna get background noise on here because it's the height of rush hour.
But you know, you're much clearer now.
Okay, great, thank you, no problem. Anything that comes up, just please let me know. The orders of love, the systemic laws, belonging and inclusion, no excluded. You know, that great-great-grandfather was really not your great-great-grandfather because it was someone else. And then that real biological person that's part of your system is excluded. It's gonna lead to painful, it could lead to painful consequences down the line. Hierarchy. It's interesting because when we work with shamanism, we don't talk about, everything is ancestors, whether before us or those coming next in the next generations. So sometimes I have to catch myself. So down the line, yet to come, hierarchy, the order by who arrived first, who was born first, who was present first. I mean, who was present first? The same thing can be applied to organizations. What do we often see organizations, businesses, companies do? They get rid of the older employees and bring in new employees without honoring those that build that business. And then we can see a lot of things disintegrate within a business for that, without a practice of honoring those that came before. Now it's not just the gold watch that they used to give years ago to people in the United States when they retired after 40 years. We live in a very different world now. But the knowing, balance, give and take. What does that mean? If I'm giving something, I should be receiving something in return. And this is a really big one for us therapists, for us heart-centered, whether systemic facilitators, teachers, or other therapies. Which, what does that reduce to in our Western world? We need to get paid for what we do. And that's for anyone. People don't seem to question when they go to the doctor and then that bill is applied, or the health insurance you paid to be able to see that doctor. But we get questioned. And this also in relationships, in couples. The husband, in those traditional ways, the husband provided the financial, the wife maintained the household, raised the children, all that. We don't live in that world anymore. But how to maintain that balance when women are out in the workplace. Yet they seem to be coming home and also taking care of the meals, the cleaning, the children, the education, balancing that out. Only two systems at that equality. You know, you're not going to go crazy and be 50-50. But the balancing. The same thing in the workplace. Just pay for just work. This is big too. Are employees being exploited? Are you the owner of a company where you're not paying someone the balance? This will manifest in your system. It will manifest in your business. Two exceptions to this, of course, are parents. Mother and father will always give more than children. We could see that later on in life when we might have to step in as the children, as caregivers of elderly parents. That can change. And the others are teachers. Teachers and trainers are always, the professors, always going to give more than their students. They're there in a leadership role, in a training role, in a teaching role. That will not unbalance any system. And in relationship, and summing up a little bit about family constellations, and then I'll open up for questions if anybody has anything pressing, or you can always write down your questions and leave them for a little later. Bert Hellinger asked Rupert Sheldrake, what can be done to not have exclusion in a system? Sheldrake's response to Hellinger was movement of the spirit. Reconcile everyone in the family. What is this reconcile?
everyone in the family need not have any excluded members. Movement of the spirit. These are the new Bert Hellinger work in terms. Any questions? Since I see that there are a few people that did not raise their hand about being systemic. Oh, not, they can definitely wait till later. Great. I don't want to lose anyone. Hydrosystemic constellation. There is an organic ease and flow. Water is a flow, it's fluid, toward reconciliation via the movement of the spirit that we see in the later development of Bert Hellinger with the new constellations of Bert Hellinger, or what many now call quantic constellations, such as Brigitte, one of my favorite teachers. Brigitte was what's called a disciple of Hellinger and is now an amazing global teacher. She's based out of Spain. Hydrosystemic constellation respects and adheres to the orders of love of Bert Hellinger. The laws that govern human relationships, belonging, hierarchy, balance between giving and taking. When one of these orders is circumvented, the system can collapse and a descendant will unconsciously repeat or compensate actions of an excluded ancestor. That's blind love, loyalty to the ancestral lineage without knowing that consciously. Water contains an organic connection and inclusion of all cellular memory that transcends space and time. Ancestral memories are manifested through the floating figurines, the anchors, the representatives. The move toward or in response are in resonance with the conflict in the system. What moves the dolls is the spirit, the morphogenetic resonance. And that's how we work with the hydrosystemic system. Others might move the dolls in the water with the hydrosystemic system. The dolls move on their own. Figurines move on their own. There's no manipulation. It's an organic movement of the spirit. The movement that we observe in hydrosystemic constellation is void of interference from the ego of the individual. This is what really attracts me to hydrosystemic constellation, especially when working online or at a distance, whether in group or individuals. This will not bring interference from myself, from the constellator, from the person being constellated, from the representative that might be going into their own issue. The resulting morphogenetic field movements of the constellation are precise. They are phenomenological. It's energy that is being moved. Occult can be revealed. The hidden that is not known can be revealed. And it is nonverbal. It is not invasive. It doesn't have to repeat a trauma. It's the flow of the water, it's handling, it's structuring, restructuring the DNA of the system. The movements brought to light in hydrosystemic constellation that are developed by Day Almeida, she's from here in Brazil, Institute Insights Institute, place the client in contact with the force of the void or the empty center of the unconscious form. It is a movement of the spirit. The spirit is an invisible force. It is the field endowed with a wisdom that does not identify with our conscious beliefs, what we know, but with those things that we don't know, the unconscious. It is the field or space that unites, surpassing beyond space and time. It is the emptiness from which all arises and all pertains. The majority of the field of the planet that we live on, called Earth, Gaia, Urantia, whatever term you might have for it, the primary element is water. Human beings, the percentage of water in our system, in our bodies, varies according to our age and gender. The amount of water in the human body can range from 50 to 75%. Without water, there is no life. Without water, there is no life. So to use water as a conduit, to use water as the morphogenetic, the morpho field, the field in which we work with systemic family constellation, brings in, we could call it like a great assistance from many, many other dimensions. I want it to open up to questions. If you want to raise your hands, if anyone has any questions. If not, I do want to show you what the field looks like. We do set up a pool, small swimming pool, and how we, oh, I have a question here. Asha, is that a question, Asha? Asha? Do you have a question, Asha?
Asha, do you want to
No,
unmute?
no. Oh, sorry, I just forgot to remove the
Still
hand.
up.
Sorry for
Does
that.
anyone
Everything
have
is
any
very
questions?
clear. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Asha. If anyone has any questions, if you want to open your cameras, if you can, I know that on cell phones you might lose some of your connectability, but it's great to see faces. Oh, yay, I see more faces now. Love faces, love people, especially we're in so many different parts of the world. I'm going to change to the field. We can always come back to questions later, or yourself, Ritu, if you have any questions. So what is the field? Here is a swimming pool, small pool. This acts as the field. This can act as the field in-person constellations or online constellations. As I said previously, love this for online constellations. You have people from all over the world, and when you just get into this conduit of water and you're moved, you see the movements. Now it's rippling because I put my hands in there. Connect. Well, a person brings a theme, just like in any other. You know, what is their problem? What's their issue? I'm going to have different. I'm not going to do a movement today, but I do want to show you. This could be. We're always going to make the representative. Who's the first representative? The person being constellated. They choose from many possibilities a figurine to represent themselves. You know, we might have an adult person and they pick this figurine. This is already providing some information to the field, isn't it? Right? We have a young woman. She's 32 when she picks this figurine. We'll have some information. But with hydrosystemic constellation, we're not judging, we're not in judgment. And I gotta tell you, a lot of times, someone's mic is open. Is that a
Hey,
question?
please mute yourselves. Hello, whose mic is open? Please mute yourselves.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's no problem, that happens. And the many other dynamics that could come in, someone who's planning, who's studying, what's the issues going on with their going to college. So various things, you know, my paths seem to be closed, what's the key? All of these things, health issues can be represented, and these things will float in the field. I'm gonna put, this is not connected right now, you know, see what movement happens. The big one, where's that big one that everyone wants? You know, this one, which we'll be talking about a little later. Money, prosperity, wealth. Some of these words already make people nervous. Whose system is that? Whose story is that? Is that your story? The relationship. Now, so when we bring this into the field and the person saying, whether it's a man or a woman, I want to marry this person, and they do not come anywhere near, this is what I'm going to anchor as wedding and love or whatever. It could be something else, it could be heart. So it's all the same dynamics that we have in regular constellation, right? You are in a live, you might call them workshop. We call them vivencias here, experiences, because there's more than just the systemic movements. There's other things that are brought in, or more than a constellation, but other systemic movements that are done. Person's just not aligned with it. They're just not aligned. Or you've got 5 people there and it's a field that's very full. And we might start bringing other things in, right? What are the other things we might be bringing in? We can use a pillow, we can use a chair. Structural constellations often used in organizations or often used with businesses. I've done this with chairs. The owner of the business, he didn't want anyone involved. And you have a full constellation happening for an organization. Taking it to the water. The water is bringing on information, DNA information that the client themselves might not know. That connection is made with the client. You know, when I place my hand in the water and I'm connecting to the client, because otherwise, if I'm putting my hand in the water because it's a distance, hydrosystemic constellation, I'm bringing my system into it. So then, of course, I connect to the client, and the ways that one does that, of course, and the client selecting their representative, and then we're going to choose representative for the father, for the mother, the representative for the business, or the representative for the financial flow, the money of the business, whatever's coming in. The client chooses themselves. The client chooses who will represent, whether it's mother or father, the person, and then anchoring it into. So the connection's always made. It's just like, for those of you that work with online constellations and you have regular dolls, these can be used as regular dolls. These happen to float. The regular figurines that I use for non-water constellation from a distance, very non-generic, the wooden ones, the wooden ones. So this is just being transferred to here. When you have these very generic ones, you're going to anchor who this is. You, who's you? The constellator, the facilitator. And it's the same in the hydrosystemic field. This, oh my goodness, this can represent so many things. Divine intervention, it can represent so many things. And many times, this is a really great system for those hidden constellations. A client has a very private issue, doesn't want to make public, and the movement will happen. The facilitator will know, the client will know, and the representatives will just be there so lovingly representing and clearing and aiding the system of that person. The swimming pool doesn't have to be very big. You want it to be big enough. This one is 70 diameter. 70 diameter. Just, you want to make it big enough to have movement. If you're doing a live in-person workshop with hydrosystemic, you might want a slightly bigger one. It's going to give you a little more work to change out the water, right? Every client that you're going to do, need to change out the water. Change out the water. It's got the DNA information of a given family system. I see some questions coming in. I got to put my glasses on for that. If there's something I missed, Ritu, please let me know. Yeah, okay, I got that. It is an organic movement. It's a natural movement. Yes, it is. A great question. The question is, are you suggesting how the movement happens?
Do you want me
In
to
the
read it, Alicia?
Is a natural,
Let-
yes, please.
So
Is a
are you
natural movement.
suggesting how the movement happens in the pool is the natural movement?
It is an organic movement, organic, natural movement that, given the theme that the constellatee brings, the DNA, Bert Hellinger talked about up to 7 generations can be worked through with family systemic constellations, and in the hydrosystemic system, Di up to this point has seen it work up to 12 generations.
Wow.
Do I, as the constellator facilitator, does G2 in a live constellation or online constellation get involved with what ancestor that is? Not necessarily. And this is the beauty of the hydrosystemic system. I'm not in my mind. I'm heart-centric. I'm holding the space. I'm intending that backward, forward, all around movement to happen. This is why the pool is circular. Movement. Kind of like a compass format, spiraling. I think there's some other questions coming up, Rita, if you
Yeah.
want to tell me. Let me know if that answered your question, the one that asked about the organic movement.
Yeah, is your question answered? The natural movement one, Amina Sheikh. I think it must be, Alicia.
I have
Yeah, this
actually
is a
asked
really
a
great
supporting
question
question.
because when we're therapists, we really want to help, but we can be bringing our interpretation. And it's an interpretation. And as in anything quantic, and definitely with the morphogenetic field of someone else, we enter with a lot of respect and not to confuse ourselves with the client. And trust you me, because obviously with electromagnetic field, we're going to bring people to us as clients that are very similar to our own issues. Isn't that true? Don't you find that, Ritu? It's like, wait a minute, whose constellation is this? Because they resonated to you, because you've already worked this with yourself or have been working this with yourself and your own family.
Should I go to the next question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Who channels the representatives?
I'm not sure that I understand who channels.
So when you put in the dolls in the hydro system, is there anything like you feel into each doll, or you just allow movement of the spirit?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, the client will choose the person to represent them. All right, the doll to represent themselves. This is a criteria of the constellator, and this is again, the intuition, the feeling into the field. The client can use the live represent, like you all here would now be candidates for representatives in a constellation. Who do you want to represent you? The client has chosen the figurine that will represent them, and then they can look through the Zoom screen, the whatever meetings you use online, and select. In live, the same thing. I tap into the field. I tap into the field. So when the client picks themselves and they pick the person, the live person that will be channeling, if you want to use that word, representing them. Now, because that's the person, that live person there is going to say how they're feeling, what their sensations are. That moves. That channel moves the water. Does that answer that?
No. Prashant, is that answered for you? I think so.
So it's no different than a representative in a live constellation in a land, let's call it a land constellation. There is a representative chosen.
I will rather ask a question. The question is, who moves the representative dolls in the water? And
No,
what
they
is,
move themselves. They move
ah,
themselves.
so what is my role as a representative?
You're going to be saying your
If I,
feelings.
Mhm.
How do you feel? Got this, mother and father, let's say. How do you feel when so-and-so comes into the field? This is the
Okay, is that
constellation. This is the mother. You're not connected now, so this is not a natural movement. This is just happening
right?
on its own. So to a certain extent, how does it feel? I, as the constellator, am observing. I know directions. This is not a
Mhm.
course. I'm not going to go into that. The workshop that I'm going to be offering doesn't go into that. It is about the movements. There's a course if someone wants to be a hydro systemic constellator, where there's the understanding of, you know, left movement, right movement in this pool of water and what that will be symbolizing. Not really different from regular constellations, but how to really apply it within the water field. I'm not going to say, okay, now I'm going to put this one over here. When the representative of father has been connected to the figurine, where do you want to place yourself? Middle, front, back, this side, or this side? The representative is connected. Oh, I want to be in the middle. Here? Yes. I, as the constellator, will wait to see where father figure places himself in relationship to mother and child. When that movement happens, I'm going to ask, how does that feel to all of these here? Again, it depends on the theme that's been brought in. Right? Someone's already knows it. I have issues with my father. I have issues at my work. I have issues in relationship. I seem to attract the same man. Okay, we got a little bit of information there, but I'm not going to make assumptions because the water field's going to be working. It's going to go into water. You see, they're moving on their own. There's no fan, overhead fan. I have an overhead fan, but it's not on now. I'm not blowing on them. The water is alive. So let's say I'm doing this. I have a headset on and the figurines hear the response. Oh, I feel a tightness in my stomach. Oh, I don't feel comfortable, and all of that. And then the movement is happening. Does that help?
Yeah, more or less, you know, because in
So
birth
what are we
telling
talking about? We're
also,
talking about phenomenology, energy, which is inherent in family constellations. You take it to the water. I don't have to push the dolls around. I know of 3 different systems of water constellations. One puts a motor in the pool. Okay, you're going to have movement. What's it moving? The other, the constellators move the dolls around. If I'm going to move the dolls around in water, I just use regular individual constellation with figurines. I know that technique. Why don't I allow the intelligence of water that allows me to connect to the DNA of that system that I don't know, and many times the client, no, many times no, and the client doesn't know. The client's not going to know 12 generations. It's phenomenology. It's a like, you know, it also depends on when your training in constellation was done, whether you're more of a structured constellation person, whether you're more of a new constellations person, and then letting go and really letting the morphic field work with all the help of the
yeah,
water.
I see that as a true movement of the soul kind of thing, where the representatives move by themselves and they come to a resolution, or the facilitators also intervene uh, to make the movements happen, or for towards the resolution, or they just keep on floating and
The
the
movement is
resolution happens?
happening through an organic, natural movement of the figurines. I'm not going to move anything in here. I mean, I've had cases where, especially when you start using the technique, right, come in and the doll falls and you're like, oh my God, I've done something wrong. No, this is the field. And this is
Uh-huh.
obviously saying something. We know this is to breathe the same thing on land. Oh my God, the representative steps in and they just can't, there are no feet under them. There are no legs under them. That's the field. We've obviously we've got an ancestor, a dead person that wants attention. This is pretty basic 101. It's the same in the water, but one gets a little startled. And I've had, oh my goodness, it was like one of the first ones that I ever did. And it was an individual constellation. And you know, place the person and immediately just fell over. And this was someone who was coming due to, she had major health issues and autoimmune. So it was, you know, for me, it was really easy to understand that that was her in the field, that I didn't do anything wrong, that oh my goodness, I tipped something. I didn't tip anything. Very careful. I'm not touching anything.
It's
Those are great
actually very
questions.
difficult.
Any more?
It's
Yeah.
actually very difficult to get the dolls, kind of go flat, considering the surface on which they are. It cannot be attributed to anything other than phenomenology, because it is the water, the surface is
Exactly.
flat.
They're gonna float. They're gonna
Yeah.
float. They're gonna float.
Mhm.
And like with any of the dolls that we have, right? If we're just doing the regular individual constellations, which direction are you looking? This is where the representative, the person that's connected. Oh, I'm looking down. Are you looking away from? It's pretty obvious. You know, mama's in some whole other place. She's looking somewhere else. He's looking at daughter, you know, and the movement is happening there without this being connected. This is just an example.
No, my actual question is a little different. My question is whether we as facilitators step in to interpret, or just let the dolls float around, like in Hellinger's movement of the soul. He doesn't interfere, he doesn't intervene, he just lays the foundation for the constellation, the people or the elements, and they move by themselves, and then somehow towards the end it gets the resolution picture emerges out of their own movements of the soul.
This
So
system is definitely a movement of the spirit. I'm not going to try to interpret, oh, that means that mother and father don't talk to each other and she's looking at her dead mother. And no, because I don't know that. I haven't brought in a representative to be her mother and see where they go, and you know, that connection having been made and the mother's not looking. I don't need to do that. That's mental. And as connected as I can be as a facilitator, and as much of a channel as I can open as a facilitator, it's still limited. Movement of the spirit. I'm so excited by this this modality. It's when we're so the logic mind, it's hard to explain to people, but it's not about explaining to people, it's about the results. So the things that I have seen in people's lives, including my own, because what's beautiful about this system is I self-constellate. I can self-constellate in other ways, but I self-constellate, which I rarely do. I'm very respectful of the field. You know what, in Brazil, we really use it in so many different ways, but I feel that people are overusing it. They're making it like it's weekly therapy or monthly therapy, and that's not the point, because you haven't allowed 12 generations to resolve anything in a month. And as with everything, there's that preparation of coming into the field, the meditation of bringing not only the client, but the representatives into the intention. Because if the client comes and they're like, oh, can I see if this works? It's kind of interesting. I wonder how it is. And they're just in that doubt. You know, those constellations we have to stop. because the person's not ready to be constelled. And that's clear here too. That's me, that's the facilitator. And what my students in this modality say, it's like, how come your dogs move so much? I'm like, don't worry about how much they move, it's the field. But I tell you something, in any kind of systemic constellation, ancestral work, or any other work or therapy that I do, I am fully present, holding space for that particular modality, and in trying to be the best that I can be for that given client who has entrusted their family field in me. That's it. And then I got to get out of the way. I got to get out of the way mentally, because I may want to force a movement when a much bigger movement is going to happen if they just wait 2 or 3 months and let it happen and hold space for themselves. So is a person really, you know, those of you that have been around Bert Hellinger, I was not able to see him live, or Sophie, you just stop a constellation. And I've done that. I had to do it a lot. I haven't stopped but changed out a representative, you know, that. And that can happen with the water field too. It's very interesting with the water field, right? Like usually that representative, if you're doing this online, it just, you know, their internet drops. You've got all of this other phenomenological help, which always happens. Even in the live, phenomenological help is always there. So phenomenology, energy, movement, water, conduit, field is very strong. Any other questions? Are you answered? Are you feeling that?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I get very excited about it because, you know, in so many of the modalities that I work with, water is so important as holding that. It's an akash. Water is an akash. And when we were in quarantine situations, and the last modality of the things that I work with, everything which could be done from a distance, was, oh my goodness, how am I going to do family systemic constellation? It's so important right now. And then hydrosystemic constellation came into my life, and it was so much easier, so much easier than with, you know, now anyone can come into your workshop and they might have their mic on and they've never seen a constellation, and just really trusting and seeing the movements happen. And as I always say to people, please give me feedback. Let me know later. Something that I'm also very committed to, which is what I'm going to be offering to you. In all of the modalities that I work with, in all of the therapies, which have really reduced, you know, there's 3 top ones that I work with now, of which, of course, family systemic constellation is one of them, hydro, and in other forms, is to work with the caregiver. I have committed myself to constelling the constellator. Doctor, heal thyself. We're so busy taking care of others. I'm part of the religious traditions of here and other places, but you know, I'm a priestess as well. I attend priestesses, because who attends them? Priestesses and priests. You know, who attends them? People ask me who attends you. I'm like, don't worry, I have my people. I have my people as well. Taking it to someone else. Any other questions, Ritu?
Yeah, I think there's one about what are the figurines made of so that they don't get wet and settle to the bottom. What is the material? Somebody's
Yeah,
asked.
this is a very lightweight material. It's kind of like the same thing as styrofoam.
Okay, like styrofoam.
Yeah.
Okay.
People make them themselves. Of course, I buy mine. I have no idea how to make one of these. It's
Okay.
like, make your own. I'm like, are you kidding? No. And then I have to send them around the world when I do courses because they're only available in Brazil.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you're offering something, isn't that right, Alicia?
I'm gonna do a little offering. Yeah, where to buy is I get them to you. I buy from the people here, and then you know it becomes a DHL situation. For now, someone can really start making these. Something I wanted to say about. Nope, left my mind. I'm going to share my screen. Go back to our PowerPoint. We've got a little offer here, which would be share here, because this is our page. A hydrosystemic constellation
Your screen
experience.
sharing has disappeared, Alicia. We can't.
It's disappeared?
Yes.
All right, let me.
Share again. Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah. Now we can see
Okay.
it.
Great.
Yeah. Perfect.
For a week from Saturday, tomorrow you have Ritu's wonderful workshop, Fatherline. Hydrosystemic constellation experience. The point here really is for constellators, therapists, aficionados of constellation, and looking at the theme of money and professional realization. The world has changed. The world is changing. And it's a good time for us all that are providing so many needed services to so many people. Also really be in alignment with our own integrities and making sure that we're being taken care of on the wealth and prosperity level, because otherwise we can't do what we do. Okay, and that's a mindset. That's a lovely mindset to, you can work all your life with many other modalities or have some movements in the field. Okay, we got my contact information here. I'm going to show you what we'll be working on that day, whether it's Instagram, Unlimited Wellbeing Catalyst, my email, unlimitedwellbeing@gmail, Facebook, Unlimited Wellbeing. You can contact me through Ritu. Please indicate that you have come through when the stars align, or Ritu, put that in somewhere in the contact. This love offering for the early bird is only for those here from this community. US 39, which I think at today's exchange, I just use it at the US dollar because the exchange rate changes every day. Today would be about 3,300 Indian rupees, US $45 at probably today's or yesterday's exchange rate, about 3,700 rupees. What are we going to be doing in this? Calling it an experience as a workshop because it's not a training, it's not a course, it's an experience. It's you allowing yourself to go to the field collectively. First and foremost, providing a safe space for participants, because this is something that's really big for therapists. We don't like to reveal that our stuff is not 100% copacetic. And we just need to try to be at least 1 or 2 steps ahead of our clients, because we're all going through the process as well, called life and called planetary transition. Introductions, gonna keep it a nice intimate number. So you want everyone to be able to present themselves, their name, what they do, what attracted them there. Very concise, no lectures. We'll have a systemic meditation. So we want to get into that heart center and not, oh my goodness, how does this work? That noise. I know you say this to your clients all the time. I'm going to work with a systemic oracle of transformation. So at the start of the day, what is the personal message coming through for you for that work that we will do on the 8th of July? We'll also then conduct an ancestral meditation. We will go through 2 systemic exercise, hydrosystemic exercises. One collective for money, and the second for professional realization. Then from those present as representatives participating, there will be a raffle for those that wish to participate if they're interested in having an individual full hydrosystemic constellation. And it would be a theme related to money or professional realization, or profession. We'll have an integration of the movement that happened, and trust you me, those that will come will be in alignment with what will happen that day. We know that about family and systemic constellations, and then we'll have our closing. We'll be together about 3 hours, always allow for a little more, because I can't close the field when there's movement, just as we wouldn't do in other situations of constellations. And some of these can go very long and some can be really short. So, and we know that about constellations already. I really like to work with auspicious days in July. Oh my goodness, we've got that. So the numerology of July 8th, 2023, right after that big portal coming on next week, 777 portal, 7th of July, and in 2023 is a 7-year. Big, big. 7 is a number most associated, the single number most associated with spirituality. What number do we get on the July 8th? We're going to add 7 and 8. We've got a 15, add 7 to that. 7 and 8, 15, and we're going to add 7 to that. We're going to get 22. 22 is a mastery number. 11, 22, 33, 44, each have their own vibration. Soul mission alignment. Let's align with our prosperity. Let's align with our abundance. Let's align with wealth codes. Any questions, any comments, Ritu?
Are there any other questions? If you can,
Uh,
have you done
I
the
am-
screen sharing?
I
And
am-
you can just close the screen and we can see you again.
And we can see me again. One moment.
Yes.
Yeah, I work with 3 cameras, by the way. Today I only have 2 set up.
Yeah.
I have a question. How do I pay you?
PayPal, this will all be done through PayPal. I will have a link that I will, I guess Ritu
Can
could
I
put in the,
instead
in the-
pay Ritu and she facilitates the payment because I don't have PayPal?
you don't have PayPal.
or
Yeah.
something?
Where are you located?
I'm in India,
You're
Pune.
in India. Yeah, you might be able to have someone who can do a PayPal for you. I work with a lot of international, and the PayPal is just it.
Alicia, I can
Yeah.
also be the person who collects and sends to you those.
And
who
Ritu can also collect.
directly. And you
Yeah.
can
Yes.
your PayPal
That's
link, you can
easier.
share it with me and I'll share it
Thank-
on the group with your recording. So whoever wants to pay can pay directly to you. Those who are unable to pay to PayPal, they can pay to me. And we can
Thank
do
you
it.
very much, Ritu. Ritu can also collect the funds. The PayPal is very easy by
Yes.
beat@hotmail.com, which I will type in here. There is a Google Forms. I will also send to Ritu, and let's see if I can copy and put in the
Chat
chat
box.
for you, because I'm working with therapists, right? I want to know who you are and what, this can really be tailor made to you all. Let's see if I can copy this link and if it'll come on here for you. Now I'll share that with through Hitu, or you can also contact me again, Unlimited Wellbeing Catalyst, Instagram, Facebook is Unlimited Wellbeing, and email Unlimited Wellbeing @gmail. And let me just add to the chat here for everyone, the PayPal, Bahia, BAHI, beat as in rhythm, BET, @hotmail.com. If you want to share this with other colleagues, feel free to do so. Priority is to this group. And let your colleagues know to also mention when the stars align.
Alicia,
We
there's
like to keep track of that. We like to keep track of that. It's just such a, thank you, Hitu. It's just such a lovely endeavor. It's yeah, this work that we do is so fascinating, right?
yes.
And it's so great to be able to see how different people are working with it. And I think that the force in the field, the collective field that is brought together from different countries is really, really, it's really big, and many blessings to you and to your team there and to all of those present.
Thank you so much, Alicia. I loved what you said, without water, there's no life. Absolutely. And what you showcased was really beautiful. It was so fascinating to see how the dolls moved around on their own. It's truly a movement of the soul, and I loved it. Yeah, I would love to be part of this, what you're offering. And those who are interested, guys, you all can take her PayPal. She has posted it here, or you can connect with me and I can take the payment and pass it on to her, no issues. There is one more question, Brinda. I think this will be the last question, yeah? Alicia, she's asking, do you use the little floating figurines and live representatives, or just the little floating figurines? Do you use both or only that?
Thank you for that question, because that wasn't clear. For individual constellations, I'm going to have the little floating figures only, and the movement is through porons. These are systemic phrases that have been developed specifically for hydrosystemic constellation. We're also channeled by diaphorum. The words, the pronunciations, the enunciation, the invocations move the field. Bert Hellinger phrases. You know, when we're stuck in a constellation of the spirit, or when we're using more traditional constellations, it's the phrases. There are specific ones that we use. They were not available when I first did this course and when I first started working with this modality, but I channeled them about 2 or 3 years ago. So yes, that's a great. The other one, it's through the representatives.
Okay.
I think that I saw a hand up. Is that Benita? Did you? It was your question. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Namaste, namaskar, Ashe. Many blessings to all. Ashe kind of means the same thing. It's just, it's such an exciting time to be on the planet right now. It's not always a party. It's been really, really, really intense. I'll definitely send that, the Google forms to you all. So you see really what the purpose is here of working this modality. Therapists or people that have, but it's also like there's the allowance to receive, allowing ourselves to receive. It can so often be out of balance as therapists of various fields, as psychologists, so many, medical people, oh my goodness. Because it's like giving. We bring the balance into our own system, because as a person, as a being, we are a system. For body, mind, soul, spirit, for organs, for skin, for bones, for ideas. How can we move forward to the next level? It's time for us to all grow and really take this further, because the planet does a disjoint. Which side do we want to be on? What part, what plane, what dimension? How do we want our life to be? It's very intense right now. So I loved Anita's theme of quantum jump. This happens in the field. This happens in constellation. So many people want to go forward. How do you go forward when you don't know where you come from? Just really big for us in the Americas. So many people without a family, genealogy, that if you get to 3 generations, that's a lot. So imagine that. And then you start working on something and then you stop. And you just never seem to finish a project. Or you're on to the next therapy that you're going to work with. What's the continuity? So backward, really spiraling. What do I need to tap into my personal system to have that money flow and to have that professional realization, and not in a 3D way of like ego because I want more money, but because it sustains, because money and profession are mother, father, and in my accepting them, it is an homage to them. We all have a divine legacy of abundance, and that does include financial abundance as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alicia, for that closing statement. Absolutely. Yes, we all have a legacy of abundance. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank
It
you
was
so much.
beautiful. And
Thank you
thank
so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Alicia.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank
What
you.
a beautiful
Bye-bye.
group. Thank you
See
so
Thank
you.
much.
you.
See you on
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. I look forward to
Let's
it.
see you on it.
Yes.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
That's beautiful.
Bye. Bye.
Not just taking the messages in. See you on the 8th. 22. Close it up.
Okay.
See you.
Thank you and bye, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.